Good morning. My name is Monday J. Thank you for watching my vlog. I post every Sunday and sometimes during the week. So let's get right into it. This shit is real. When moving to another country, it's definitely, you're excited, you're ready, but it comes with its own set of challenges. So before you pack your bag, I really want you to do some deep diving, do some soul searching, because you're gonna need this. You're gonna need this a lot. So what I did, I figured out my why. Why am I leaving? And I wrote it on Post-its. I know everyone doesn't. You may not need to do the same thing I did, but this is what I did. I put it on the mirror in the bathroom. I put it everywhere where I need to see this every day, because this is important. So something else I want you to do is, when you get to your new country, treat it as if you are starting on a new job. This is your new position. Sure, you have years of experience at this job, but you've never accomplished the task at another place. So at first you're uncomfortable, you're not sure, so you have to figure out how the company does things. So that takes time. For me, in the past, when I've started a new job, I have to give myself at least 6 months, to get acclimated, to start liking the job, actually to start liking the people. So look at your new country as a new job. This is, you're not going to like it at first, maybe. So you want to give it a chance. You can't just get there, oh, I hate this. You're no longer in America, and you knew that. But give it some time. Give yourself some time. And again, leave your American way of thinking in America. Start working on that before you leave. Start working on a different thought process. I would hope for the best and expect the worst. I know that sounds crazy, but that way you're not disappointed. So one of the first things you're going to miss when you, once you've moved, is you're gonna miss events. And this may not be for everyone, but for a lot of us, we can't afford plane tickets to fly for the grandkid's birthday, or this wedding, or graduation party. So just expect to be disappointed about that, because again, most of us can't afford to fly back and forth. And do you really want to? Another thing to be to expect, and not for everyone and not for every country. I will say this: when we got to Panama, there was no culture shock, none whatsoever, because it's so much like America. But when we got to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, wow, that was a culture shock for me. That it's a third world country. It's a developing country. It's absolutely beautiful, but there are things that I had to acclimate to. One of the things I had to get accustomed to was the transportation, the van drivers. These van drivers would pack people in. I think it was an 18 people seat van, but they'd have 24 people in there. And they'd have these adjustable seats. So if they needed extra seats, they slide it in and someone would sit there. So you're squeezed up. That was hard for me. Another thing was they moved very quickly. So getting on the van, you better hurry up. Getting off the van, the same thing. And paying. It was nothing for them to say, come on, Gab, hurry up, Gab. Because, I wasn't used to it. I should have paid as we were sitting and driving. Something else I had to get used to was going 80 miles per hour around a deep curve on a cliff with no guardrail. Whew. Yeah, the only thing I could do was pray. And I never really got used to that. I just learned how to deal with it better. I learned to listen to my music and just kind of not look off the cliff. That was a real thing. Another thing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and here too, lack of customer service. America is big on customer service. So in St. Vincent, they weren't the friendliest people in the beginning. Now, I remember asking for something, and the guy just did his head like that, like, what the hell? So, but I will say, the longer I stayed, the friendlier they got. They recognize you. So by the time I left, I would walk in, hey friend. So that was something to get used to, but I had to stay there to figure that out. I had to hang in there. Another thing is you have to embrace their pace. Pack your patience and your sense of humor. Don't be surprised if you're in the grocery store and a cashier is talking to someone and you have to wait. You have to wait until that conversation is complete before she scans your things. That's a real thing. That was a thing in St. Vincent here and in Mexico. And I've noticed in restaurants also in Mexico, don't expect the wait staff to come back and ask if you need anything else. They're not going to bring your check. As a matter of fact, their custom is to let you enjoy your meal. You'll see me, you'll flag me down when you're ready to pay. Something else is the language barrier, and I said this in my last video, and I'm going to keep saying this. If you're moving to a different country and the language is different, take classes. Now, I took online classes like 10-minute Spanish, Duolingo, which was fine. It prepared me for the basics. But depending on what country you're going to, I would, if I had to do it over, I would take classes from someone, a Zoom class from someone from that country. Because if you're moving to a Spanish speaking country, the Spanish is different. Here, I know just enough to figure out what they're saying. So I'm constantly saying, más despacio, por favor. Slow down. And then they realize, oh, she doesn't speak Spanish. So that's, that if I could do it again, do over, that's what I would do. I would have been a little more prepared. Um, and then here, they like to practice their English. So they're reluctant to speak in Spanish sometimes. If they know English, they want to, you're the guinea pig. Something else, if you have any mental issues, get help before leaving. If you're going through something and you need some help, see someone before you leave. Let your doctor figure out your medication dosage or combinations. And I'm not being sarcastic. So when I left America, my sister had just passed, and that hit me like a Mack truck. So I would have these bouts of just crying randomly. I sometimes I couldn't get out of bed, and I didn't know why. So I had to talk to someone. I had to reach out and get some help, because this was not a good look. Crying in the grocery store, crying in meetings. So I had to get some help. So we figured out, of course, I was, diagnosed with depression. She gave me a prescription, and I didn't take any of those pills because, and if you need to do that, this was my choice. I figured I had, I took the pills with me when we went to St. Vincent, but for me, it helped that my husband knew to let me cry. We go to the beach. We were on the beach every day, and I'm crying and I'm praying, and I just needed to heal. And it helped. Like I said, he was there to sometimes not even touch me, just let me cry. He started making bush tea, which was a mixture of ginger, guinea pepper, turmeric, and I'm talking fresh, not the powder, a little garlic, and he boiled this and give me this tea. And I was eating fresh mango, papaya. Before, from a kid, I didn't eat fish. I hated fish, but I started eating fish. So side note, I don't eat it because since we've been back here and since we've been in Panama, I don't know, it's just something different about that fish in St. Vincent. Anyway, so I started feeling better. I started getting back to myself. And of course, I had to deal with the fact that my sister is gone. And I don't know if it's because she and I were adopted, but and I've had other family members pass, but this, oh my God, this just hit me different. It was just a different pain. So I had to deal with that. And in my case, I went to an island I had support that helped me feel better. But if you are in your home country and you're leaving, get help with those issues before you leave. You can still go, but deal with that before you leave, because you're gonna have some other issues. Something else to deal with is isolation. You've left your country, you don't know anyone. It's, you feel helpless. So if you're moving solo, I suggest join the Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for whatever country you're going to. Join those expat groups. Ask questions. do the meetups. You may not be best friends, but that feeling of isolation is no longer there. I know here there's a group that holds church service on some Sundays. Can't remember. I think it's the fourth Sunday. I can't remember. But there are all types of expat groups on Facebook. So definitely join those. The last thing, do a relationship check. If you are married or you have a partner that you're moving with, do a relationship check. If that relationship is not working in America, it probably won't work in the other country. I'm not saying it won't. And then another way of looking at that is it may work. You don't have anyone else to depend on, but it's definitely a strained relationship if it's not working in America. So my husband and I are together 24/7. And I know for a lot of people that won't work. You get tired of being around each other. I've never had this. I've never had someone I can be around this much and be okay with. But we're respectful of each other's moods. I'm respectful of whatever he needs. I try to put him first, and he does the same thing with me. So don't compound the problems by moving to another country if you're already having problems at home. Figure that out. If you need to go to counseling, do that. But definitely do a relationship check. So I just want to end this video with letting you know, if you have plans to move abroad, do it. We have no regrets. I have no regrets of living in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It taught me a lot. It helped me heal. I have no regrets coming to Panama. I love Panama. So keep up with what we're doing from week to week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.